So we are now moving into graphing linear inequalities and the systems of inequalities. But first we need to make sure we know how to graph linear inequalities. For some of you this might be review. For others of you this is brand new. I like this week because we, or this whole section of graphing inequalities, because it's basically just like art class. We do a bunch of drawing. You might want to make sure that you have some different colored pencils or crayons or something later in the, as not this section but the next section, because it will help your visual being able to answer the question. So let's see what all this is about. So what's the difference between graphing a linear equation and a linear inequality? We're going to talk about that. Write down your EQ. Make sure you answer it somewhere in your notes. You need to write down this table. You will see this table for the next several videos, but you need to make sure you have it written down somewhere where you understand it and know how to use it. You do not have to memorize this stuff. You might end up memorizing it because we're going to use it so much here for the next several days. But basically, this is the information that is new for this section. Okay, so we're going to graph a line, right? And when we're talking about inequalities, we have to decide if our line is going to be a solid line or a dotted line. Is it going to be solid or is it going to be dashed or dotted? I say dashed, I say dotted, sometimes I say dolled, dalled, dashed-ed, but those are your two choices. And then we're going to shade, meaning we're going to color on one side of the line or the other. Okay, so that you need to decide if you're going to shade above the line or below the line. Sometimes above and below gets a little crazy. So I'm going to say this different ways as we go to kind of help you figure out what those mean. Because if your line looks like this, it's hard to decide if that's above or that's below or what. So we'll talk about the above and the below thing as we go. But basically it's all about what your sign says. Okay, so I will erase this so you can pause and write it down nice and big and clear so you can read it in your notes and use it every day for the next, at least 2 weeks. So here's how all this works. First we need to graph this. We need to graph it as if it said y equals 2. Okay, so think about that. If it's y equals a number, that means we're going to have a horizontal line, right? Horizontal line. Okay, so we're going to go to where y equals 2, put a point, okay, and it's going to be a horizontal line. But first we need to think back to our graph here, our table, and think, okay, look at our sign here. It is less than or equal to, so that means we have a solid line. Okay, that's this part. It's less than or equal to, so that means it's a solid line. Okay, so next we need to think about where are we going to shade. Okay, because this line is as if it was equals, but it's not. It's less than or equals, right? So that means our y is less than or equal to. So our y has to be going down, which means our y has to be getting smaller, which would be here. So we're going to shade below the line. Less than or equal to, below the line. Let's try another one. So here we've got x is greater than or equal to -3. So if we were going to graph x is equal to -3, we would put a point at -3. And we would need to look at our sign and say, okay, it's also or equal to, so that means it's going to be a straight line. Oh, I did that wrong, didn't I? I did y equals -3. Well, I'm just all full of mistakes, aren't I? X equals negative 3. It's all right. You guys are in your own homes. You can yell at me all you want. I won't hear you. And so it's a solid vertical line at x equals negative 3. I should not make these videos before my coffee, apparently. And then we need to think about our shading. Which side are we going to shade? Well, it's greater than or equal to, right? So greater than, x is greater than, so x has to be getting bigger, so we're going to shade the side where it's getting bigger. And that's it. Your shading doesn't need to be fancy. You can go either direction. You can go both directions, but do not spend 10 years making it all, shaded in like this. Who cares? As long as I can tell you meant this side and not the other side, you're good. Now, let's see what it means when it's not horizontal or vertical. Again, we're going to graph this just as if it was y equals negative x plus 3. So we're going to put a point at the positive 3. Remember, this is a 1 over 1, so we're going to go up 1 and over 1, and it's negative, so it's got to be going this direction, so we're going to go up 1, negative 1, up 1, or down 1. Okay, and then we need to look at our sign that they gave us, and it's less than or equal to, so it's also or equal to, so it's going to be a solid line. I sure hope I have some examples that are not or equal to, huh? And then we need to think, okay, less than, y is less than, so y has to be going down, so this is where y is going down, so that's the side we're going to shade. So notice that you have, again, we're graphing, right? So either just draw yourself a little graph like we were doing and make it as, legible as you can. Or use Cami or some other annotator with the PDF, whatever works for you. I think I have another example. I do. Okay, so again, we're going to graph it as if this was an equal sign, but it's really a greater than sign. So we're going to start at the positive 4. This is really negative 3 over 1. Negative means it's going that direction. Can't really go up 3, so let's go down 1, 2, 3, over 1, 1, 2, 3, over 1, 1, 2, 3, over 1. And then it's greater than, but not equal to, which means we're going to have a dashed line. It doesn't need to be pretty, just needs to I just need to be able to tell that you meant that it's not solid, okay? I usually just kind of use my points and make lines through the points and call that dashed or dotted. And then we need to figure out where to shade it. Y is bigger or greater than, which means that our y's need to be going up, which means it's this side that's shaded. I don't think I have another example. I do not. So ask me in chat any questions you have, and we'll practice some more tomorrow too.